Okay, so yesterday in class we left off on number 9. Number 9 is another example of combining two functions by multiplication, and then we're evaluating that function where our input is -1, right? So I'm going to use the second method, right? If you remember, there's two methods. First method was do the operation with the functions that you're given, and then with the resulting function, plug in your value that you're given into the function for x's. However, I don't really like that method for multiplication because it's a lot of steps. So I'm going to do method 2, where I'm going to start from the beginning with taking my first function, replacing the x values with my input, and then taking the second function, replacing my x values with my input, solving those two values, and then combining those two values by the operation indicated. So in this case, I'm going to take function f, which is 2x squared minus x minus 12. I'm going to replace these x's with -1. So let's see. We have 2 times -1 squared minus -1 minus 12. So now I'm going to solve for this f value. So -1 squared is +1, right? So we have 2 times +1, which is just 2, and then minus -1 is the same as +1, right? When you subtract the negative number, it's the same thing as adding that number, and then minus 12. So now I have 2 plus 1, which is 3, minus 12, which is -9. So my f value is -9. And then next, I'm going to do the same thing except with function g. So I'm going to take function g, which is x plus 7. And I'm replacing this x with the input -1. So -1 plus 7. And that is equal to 6. So this is my g value. This is my f value. Now I'm going to combine those two values that I got by the function that was indicated. And so that is f times g. So I'm going to replace f with my value for f, which is -9, and times my value for g, which is 6. And -9 times 6 is -54. If you do it in the other method, you'll see you'll get the same thing. Number 10, I'm going to do the same thing. Same method. I'm going to take function f, which is 2x squared minus x minus 12. I'm replacing it with with input 5, right? So this is going to become 2. Instead of x, I'm going to write 5. So x squared would be 5 squared minus 5 minus 12, right? 5 squared is 25, and then I have 2 times 2 times 25, which is 50. So now I have 50 minus 5 minus 12. 50 minus 5 is 45, minus 12 is 33. This is my f value. Now I'm going to solve for my g value. My g function is x plus 7. So I'm replacing this x with 5. So 5 plus 7, and that's equal to 12. So this is my g value. And I'm going to do the operation indicated, which is f divided by g. So f divided by g. And I'm replacing f with the value for f that I just solved, which was 33, over my value for g, which is 12. And this can be simplified further, right? Both 33 and 12 are evenly divisible by 3. 33 divided by 3 is 11, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So our final answer is 11 divided by 4. If you got 33 over 12, I'll accept that as well. All right, so next, we're going to be discussing composition of functions. Composition of functions is another method for us to be able to combine functions. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be evaluating one function for another function. And if you don't know what evaluating is you just might not know that this is what it's called, but we did that in numbers 7 through 10. We evaluated the functions, and what we did when we evaluated is we were given an input, and we plugged that input into our function for the x values. So if I'm evaluating a function for another function, that means that one of the functions is going to be an input. So I'm going to take the other function and I'm going to plug in the other function in for the x values. It's going to make a lot more sense once we have it written out. So let's go over these notes right here. So it says another method to combine functions is called a composition. given f of x and g of x, the composite function is, and this is read, f of g of x. So now it says, given f of x and g of x, the composite function f of g of x is defined as, and we're going to define it as this. So first I'm going to write f of, and actually I'm going to write it in different colors. I'm going to color code this. So I'm going to continue using red for f and blue for g. So f of g of x is the same as, when we expand it, f of g of x, right? So in this example right here, g of x is the input. So that means that I would be plugging in function g of x into the x values for f, right? I'm going to continue to color code these so that hopefully it helps you understand what I'm doing. So next, the directions tell us to, so given f of x is equal to x cubed plus 8, g of x is equal to x minus 1, h of x is equal to 5x minus 3. Find each function. So we're going to be composing these functions together. And again, I'm going to be using red for f of x, I'm going to be using blue for g of x, and I'm going to be using green for h of x. So when we get started, number 11, we have f of g of x. So we are going to be plugging in function g into the x values for function f. So I'm going to write this out. This is equal to, and it's actually an example of what we had over here in the notes, right? So, so f of g of x can be rewritten as f of g of x. So I know that my function is f and my input is g. So I'm going to rewrite function f. I know that function f of x is x cubed plus 8, right? So now I'm going to be replacing this x right here with g of x. So I'm going to write this x in blue so that you guys understand that this x is going to become function g of x. Function g of x is x minus 1. So this x is now going to be x minus 1. So this becomes x minus 1 cubed plus 8. So this is how you write f of g of x with the functions that we were given. So I hope this makes sense. And just again, to reiterate what I did, this right here is function f, and my input is function g of x. So I'm replacing this x with function g of x, right? So this becomes x minus 1 cubed plus 8. So now I'm going to expand this, right? So x minus 1 cubed is the same thing as x, let me write it over here. This is x minus 1 times x minus 1 times x minus 1. Anything cubed is that number or term times itself, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start distributing with these two. So at the end, I can distribute x minus 1 into whatever the product of these two terms is, right? So I have x times x, which is x squared. I have x times negative 1, which is negative x. Negative 1 times x, which is negative x. And negative 1 times negative 1, which is positive 1, right? These two are like terms. I can combine them, and I get x squared minus x is negative 2x plus 1, right? So now this is the resulting product from these two. Now I have to distribute x plus 1 now, right? Or sorry, x minus 1 now, right? So, and let me actually move it down a little bit so I can have space to show my lines that are being distributed. All right. So I'm distributing x first. So I have x times x squared, which is x cubed. X times negative 2x, which is negative 2x squared. X times 1, which is just plus x. Next, I'm distributing negative 1. Negative 1 times x squared is negative x squared. Negative 1 times negative 2x is positive 2x. And negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. So when I combine the like terms, so I have negative 2x being combined with negative x and then x being combined with 2x, right? I'm going to write this resulting function over here, right? So I have x cubed. I have negative 2x squared minus x squared, which becomes negative 3x squared, right? Negative 3x squared. Then I have x plus 2x, which is 3x, right? So plus 3x. And then minus 1. So this right here was when we expanded this. We cannot forget about this plus 8, right? So we're going to add plus 8 at the end because we haven't done anything with this yet. We only expanded this function right here. So now our real final answer is going to be x cubed minus 3x squared minus plus 3x. And then negative 1 plus 8 is going to be positive 7. I'm going to erase some stuff over here so I can I'm actually going to rewrite it. All right, so then I know that f of g of x, so f of g of x is equal to x cubed minus 3x squared plus 3x, and then negative 1 plus 8 is plus 7, right? So this is our final answer. All right, that one was a really long one, and we're going to skip number 13 because that one is a long one as well. But we're going to go on to number 12. Number 12 is super quick and super simple, right? So I have h of g of x, which means that my function is going to be rewritten this way. So function h is in green, right? So I have h of g of x, right? So g is my input and h is my function. So I'm going to take function h, which is 5x minus 3, and I'm going to replace this x right here with function g. So I'm going to color code that x blue so you understand what I'm doing, right? So I'm replacing this x with the function for g. So let me write it out now. That is 5. And then function x, or function g of x, is x minus 1. So this x becomes x minus 1 minus 3, right? So we're going to go ahead and distribute. So 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. And then minus 3. So when we combine like terms, our final answer is h of g of x is equal to 5x. And then negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. So this is our final answer here. All right. Hope that one helped make this make more sense because this one was a pretty quick and pretty simple one. We're gonna skip number 13 because we're gonna end up getting a really long answer. And on your test, you're not gonna have to. This is not what you're going to be doing on your test. You're going to be getting examples like number 15 and number 16 on the test, which is what I really want you guys to focus on. So we're not going to do number 13 because you're not going to get one like this on the test. But I'm going to give you guys the answer just in case you do want to go back and do the work on your own. But the answer here is going to be 125x cubed minus 225x squared plus 135x minus 19. Really long answer, so many steps to do it. And I think that we already did number 11, number 12, and then doing number 14 as well is going to help us really build our understanding of what we're doing with composite functions and then help us lead into this. All right. So next, number 14, we have g of f of x. So we're going to rewrite this as g is in blue. So g of f of x. And the order is important, right? Over here we had f of g of x. Here we have g of f of x. And you're going to see that they are two completely different functions that we get as a result. So I'm going to write out function g, right? Function g is x minus 1, right? And so this is the function that I'm using, function g, right? My input into function g is function f of x, right? Which is x cubed minus or plus 8, which means that this x, I'm going to replace it with function f of x. So now I'm going to write f of x, which is x cubed plus 8, and then minus 1, right? So this x became this, and then minus 1, right? All right, and then here we just have two like terms, right? So this final result, I'm actually going to write it over here. X cubed doesn't have a like term that we're combining it with, so we're going to have x cubed. And then these two are like terms. 8 minus 1 is going to be plus 7. So our final answer here is x cubed plus 7. So again, I hope that one made sense and helped you understand this. And this is pretty simple. All right. So next, we're going to move on to number 15 and 16. So 15 and 16, the directions tell us, using the same functions above, find each function value. So similar to how we wrote this and we expanded it, we're going to expand this as well, right? So this is g of h of 2, right? Normally this was x, but this time instead of x, we're writing 2. So we're going to expand it the same way. So function g is in blue. So this is g of h, right? Function h is in green. So g of h of, instead of x though, we're going to write of 2. So this is g of h of 2, right? So I think you guys can see it here now. What's going to happen, what you're going to do is you're going to take this 2. Well, you're going to start off with function h first, right? You have to solve what function h is first when you plug in 2 into the function. Then whatever resulting value you get from function h after plugging in 2 for the x values, you're going to plug in that value into function g for the x values. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to get started with function h, right? So function h is 5x minus 3, right? So 5x minus 3. And here my x value, or my, because x value is our input, right? My x value is going to be 2. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this x to be black so that you can see that I'm changing this x with 2, right? So that means that I have 5 times 2 minus 3. 5 times 2 is going to be 10. So we have 10 minus 3, which is equal to 7. So when you plug in 2 into function h, your resulting value is 7. So that means that h of 2 is equal to 7. So what that means now is I'm going to go ahead and take function g, which is x minus 1, and I'm going to replace this x. I'm replacing this x with this So I'm replacing this x right here. I'm replacing this x right here with this 7 that we got as a result of h of 2, right? And actually I can turn this to be green, right? Turn this to be green. So that way you know what's going on, right? The value that we got for h of 2 is 7. So I'm replacing that value with x in the function g of x, right? So now I have this x becomes 7. So I have 7 minus 1. And 7 minus 1 is 6. So the final answer that we have here is 6. And if you want, I'm going to erase this real quick. So I'm going to show you something. So if you wanted to write the whole function, right? So this is g of h of 2. If you want to write the whole function out, starting with function g of x, right? This is how you would do it. So g of x is x minus 1, right? We're replacing this x right here with, we're replacing this x right here with this h, right? With function h of 2. So I'm going to write in function h right there. Function h is 5x minus 3. So this x becomes 5x minus 3 minus 1, right? And in function h, this x right here is actually supposed to be 2, right? So I'm going to replace this x with 2, right? Because we were given the input 2. So now I'm going to write out 5 times 2 minus 3 minus 1, right? So this is the whole g of h of 2 written out, right? And then this just helps you save a little bit more time. But we have 5 times 2 first, which is 10. Then I have 10 minus 3, which is 7. And then I end up with 7 minus 1, which gives us 6. Same answer, right? A little bit less steps, and we got to the answer quicker. So now we're going to do number 16. And I'm going to do it in this format that we just did right now, right? So I have h of f of negative 6. So h is in green. So h of f of negative 6. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and take the whole function, right? So I'm going to write out function h first, because that's our leading function. So 5x minus 3. So I have 5x minus 3, right? And I'm replacing this x value right here with function f, right? So this red x that I just changed colors to, I'm going to write x cubed plus 8, right? So this becomes 5 times x cubed plus 8 minus 3, right? So this x becomes this right here, right? However, I'm given a value, right? So I'm going to change this value for x into this negative 6. So instead of x, I'm writing in negative 6. So now I have 5 times, I'm replacing this x with negative 6. So I have negative 6 cubed plus 8 minus 3. So this is me writing out this entire thing so I can do it in one sweep. And I'm going to do it in the slower version after in case this doesn't make sense to you. But we're going to go ahead and solve now, right? So first we have negative 6 cubed. Negative 6 cubed is negative 216. So I have negative 216 plus 8, which is negative 208. So negative 208 times 5, right? So negative 208 is what we're left over with in the parentheses once we do all those operations. So we have 5 times negative 208, which is equal to negative 1,040. So I have negative 1,040 minus 3, which our final answer, negative 1,040 minus 3 is negative 1,043. This is our final answer right here, right? So it does take a little bit of, it does require you to understand this whole concept to be able to do it this way. But I'm going to show you guys now the shorter way. Or not the shorter way, but the long way with all the steps kind of outlined, right? So again, this is h of f of negative 6. So first, what we can do is we're going to take function f and we're going to replace x's with negative 6, right? So function h is x cubed plus 8, right, I think? Yep, x cubed plus 8. So I'm going to take this x and I'm going to replace it with this negative 6 that we were given, right? So this becomes negative 6 cubed plus 8, right? Negative 6 cubed is negative 216, right? So we have negative 216 plus 8, and that is negative 208. So this is the value that we get when we evaluate function f with an input of negative 6. So now the resulting value that we get, we plug it into function h, right? So function h, I'm going to write it out. Function h is 5x minus 3. Oh, whoops, wrong pen. 5x minus 3, right? And I'm going to be replacing this x right here with the value that I just got for function f, right? So this becomes 5 times negative 208 minus 3. 5 times negative 208 is negative 1,040 minus 3, right? And then negative 1,040 minus 3 is equal to negative 1,043. So same answer, a couple more steps, and the steps kind of drawn out, but as long as you get the correct answer, you can do it in either way, right? So I hope this helped. Let me know if you have any questions.